Impact of Corporation for Public Broadcasting Shutdown on PBS Charlotte. The recent announcement regarding the shutdown of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB, has sent shockwaves through the public broadcasting community, and PBS Charlotte is feeling the impact deeply. With a staggering loss of $1.2 million due to federal funding cuts, the station is currently navigating a challenging landscape while it evaluates the long-term consequences of this decision. A spokesperson for PBS Charlotte shared with the Charlotte Observer that the station will continue to operate in the near term, but the future remains uncertain. In a historic move, Congress voted to defund the CPB for the first time since its inception in 1967, leading to the organization's closure. This decision came on the heels of a rescission package passed last month, which included a significant $1.1 billion cut to the CPB, the entity responsible for funding PBS and NPR stations nationwide. As a direct result of these cuts, WFAE, Charlotte's NPR affiliate, has already announced the elimination of 6 positions. Patricia Harrison, the president and CEO of CPB, expressed the gravity of the situation in a news release, stating, "Despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, wrote, and petitioned Congress to preserve federal funding for CPB, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations." She emphasized CPB's commitment to fulfilling its fiduciary responsibilities and supporting its partners during this transition with transparency and care. As the clock ticks down, the majority of CPB employees are set to conclude their work on September 30th. However, a small transition team will remain in place until January to manage compliance, finalize distributions, and address long-term financial obligations, including the continuity of music rights and royalties. For PBS Charlotte, also known as WTVI, the loss of $1.2 million represents a significant 25% of its overall budget. The station primarily relies on individual donations as its largest source of revenue. In light of the impending cuts, WTVI has proactively taken measures in recent years to bolster its cash reserves. This includes refraining from filling vacant positions while awaiting federal decisions, as noted by Catherine Butler, the Vice President of Communications at Central Piedmont Community College, which licenses WTVI. Butler remarked, "This has positioned us to continue operating for the near term, but we do and will continue to rely on expanded donations from our community members, and we are grateful for their continued support at this time." She also mentioned that the team at PBS Charlotte will continue to engage with fellow PBS stations across the country to collaborate and share insights as they all come to terms with the full ramifications of these funding cuts. PBS Charlotte has been a staple of the community since it began broadcasting in 1965, currently reaching an impressive 1.3 million households across 13 counties. Rebecca Knoll, a dedicated education reporter for the Charlotte Observer, brings her expertise to this unfolding story. A Houston native and Rice University graduate, she later earned a master's degree in journalism from the University of Missouri. Outside of her reporting duties, Rebecca enjoys reading, running, and exploring the vibrant coffee shop scene in Charlotte. The impact of CPB closure on Jewish culture and heritage. The impending closure of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB, is a significant loss for the Jewish community. And here's why it matters deeply. Since its establishment in 1967, CPB has been primarily funded by Congress, serving as a vital resource for American education and culture. However, on August 1, 2025, CPB announced its plans to shut down next year, a decision stemming from a White House initiative aimed at ending its long-standing contributions to the cultural landscape of the United States. This development presents a critical moment for American Jews, who will soon witness how their rich heritage endures even as audiovisual representations of Yiddish culture are silenced by political leaders in Washington, D.C. Many Jewish viewers may recall notable CPB-supported productions, such as the 2008 miniseries, The Jewish Americans, crafted by David Grubin. This series explored the lives of influential figures like Supreme Court Justices Louis Brandeis and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, baseball player Hank Greenberg, and feminist icon Betty Friedan. Grubin's intention was to illustrate the duality of Jewish identity in America, highlighting how Jews have embraced their American identity while striving to maintain their Jewish roots. That tension intrigued me, he stated. Now, a palpable sense of tension is felt across numerous local public radio and television stations that have depended on CPB funding. This includes both modest outlets and high-profile productions like Ken Burns's 2022 documentary series, The U.S. and the Holocaust, and Defying the Nazis, Sharp's War, which were made possible in part by CPB support. The latter documentary tells the inspiring story of an American minister and his wife from Massachusetts who courageously rescued Jews and other refugees escaping Nazi-occupied Europe. Understanding a diverse history is crucial not only for CPB, but also for the contemporary Jewish experience. At a public media summit last year, CPB President Pat Harrison shared a poignant memory from her childhood in Brooklyn, where she noticed that none of her classmates had grandparents, uncles, or cousins because they had all perished in the Holocaust. Harrison wisely quoted German theologian Martin Niemöller, who, after surviving imprisonment in concentration camps, reflected on the dangers of silence in the face of oppression. He noted that when the Nazis imprisoned the Jews, many remained silent, believing it did not concern them. By the time he was targeted, no one was left to speak out. This realization about the Holocaust profoundly influenced Harrison's career in public media, where she emphasized, "Here we speak for everyone." The awareness of Jewish tragedies in the 20th century is echoed by Kevin Close, the former president of National Public Radio. In 2006, while accepting an award named after the legendary broadcaster Edward R. Murrow, Close recalled Murrow's 1942 broadcasts that revealed the Nazis' systematic extermination of Jews. Murrow's powerful words about the need for accountability for these atrocities resonate even today, serving as a cautionary reminder of the past. Jewish experiences have also subtly influenced CPB-supported programs like Sesame Street, co-created by Jewish writer-producer Joan Gans Cooney, featuring the beloved character Mr. Hooper, played by Jewish actor Will Lee. Even Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, hosted by the kind-hearted Fred Rogers, drew from Jewish traditions, including the concept of tikkun olam and the inclusion of a tzedakah box in one episode. Rogers consulted Rabbi Earl Grolman when addressing sensitive topics like divorce, showcasing the intersection of Jewish values in children's programming. Indirectly, CPB has also supported projects like Raise the Roof, a documentary about reconstructing an 18th-century wooden synagogue in Poland, produced by John Rubin, an award-winning producer of the science series Nova. Jewish representation has always been integral to CPB's offerings. The 2022 series, The Great American Recipe, featured Jewish chef Leah Cohen, who brought her Filipino and Romanian heritage to the culinary competition, alongside contestant Brad Maloff, who proudly shared his Sephardic and Ashkenazi roots. Rabbi David A. Teutsch's book, Imagining the Jewish Future, highlights Richard A. Siegel, a former executive director of the National Foundation for Jewish Culture, as another CPB honoree. Carol Edelman, an emerita professor of sociology and Holocaust studies, has also been recognized by CPB for her contributions. Given the CPB's commitment to Jewish culture, it is no surprise that it played a pivotal role in the Jewish American Heritage Collection, which provided over 400 public television and radio programs from 1945 to 2017, focusing on the social, cultural, and religious dimensions of Jewish life in the United States. This collection includes interviews with literary giants like Philip Roth and Isaac Bashevis Singer, alongside discussions on the political influence of Jewish voters and the campaign to free Soviet Jews. The CPB also co-sponsored the 2002 Exploring Religious America survey, which offered valuable insights into how American Jews are perceived by their Christian counterparts. Given this acute awareness of history and its implications for the present, threats to CPB's existence have loomed large throughout its history. Just a year after its establishment under President Lyndon Baines Johnson, attempts were made by President Richard Nixon to dismantle it, though those efforts were ultimately unsuccessful. Media historian James Ledbetter recalls the 1990s when Republican Congressman Joel Heffley accused CPB-supported Pacifica Network of broadcasting unfounded claims about Jewish doctors and their supposed role in injecting black babies with the AIDS virus. Despite such baseless accusations, CPB continued its mission until now. As we face the reality of CPB's closure, what will Jewish audiences miss the most? Some may resonate with Elisa Lebeau's reflections in First Person Jewish, praising documentarian Alan Berliner for his CPB-supported films that explore his family's unique history. Critic Michael Renoff notes that Jews have always cared about family, and Berliner's work offers a candid examination of family dynamics as a tribute to the past. Moreover, the extensive educational programs funded by a generous donation from Jewish media mogul Walter Annenberg will be fondly remembered by those who value lifelong learning. These Annenberg CPB initiatives, designed for both college students and school children, represented a beacon of hope for future education. However, this hope has been severely compromised by the harsh decision made in Congress. Moving forward, it will be essential to find new ways to share knowledge about Jewish cultural and intellectual achievements without the invaluable support that CPB has provided for nearly 6 decades. Impact of CPB shutdown on PBS and NPR. What you need to know. Imagine waking up one day to discover that your favorite public broadcasting channels, the ones that have been a source of education, information, and entertainment for decades, are suddenly on the brink of shutting down. This is the stark reality that millions of Americans are facing now that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB, has announced it will begin closing its doors. But here's where it gets controversial. The CPB, established in 1967, has been the backbone of public media in the United States, providing crucial funding to NPR, PBS, and hundreds of local stations across the country. Despite the passionate efforts of millions of Americans who pleaded with Congress to save the CPB, the recent decision to cut $1.1 billion in funding from the nonprofit's budget has left the organization with no choice but to start winding down operations. As the CPB president and CEO Patricia Harrison stated, despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations. But what does this mean for the future of public broadcasting? While national programs like PBS NewsHour and NPR's Morning Edition won't vanish overnight, the loss of federal support will undoubtedly pose serious challenges to the network of smaller, often rural public broadcasters that have long relied on CPB funding for survival. These local stations, which are often the only source of local journalism in their communities, may be forced to cut staff, reduce programming, or shut down entirely. In many rural areas classified as news deserts due to the decline of local newspapers, public media stations have become essential sources of local news coverage, educational content, and emergency alerts. The decision to eliminate CPB funding was largely driven by political ideology. Republicans, accusing NPR and PBS of political bias, saw the CPB as an unnecessary burden on taxpayers. However, this move has sparked widespread debate. For instance, Senator Lisa Murkowski, who voted against the funding cuts, argued, "If you don't like what's going on within NPR, you think that there's too much bias there, we can address that. But you don't need to gut the entire corporation for public broadcasting." And this is the part most people miss. Despite the political controversy, most Americans still support public media. A recent poll found that 66% of U.S. adults favor continued federal funding for public radio, including a significant portion of Republicans. This suggests that the public values the role of public media in their communities, even if some politicians do not. So what's next for NPR, PBS, and local stations? While national programming may continue for now, The loss of CPB funding threatens the financial stability of local stations that carry these shows. The CPB's absence will leave a significant funding gap, making it difficult for these stations to maintain their operations. However, there is hope. In the wake of the funding cuts, many Americans have stepped up to support public media, with some stations reporting record-breaking donations. But will this be enough to sustain them in the long run? As the CPB winds down its operations, we're left with a critical question. What role should public media play in our society, and who should fund it? The debate is far from over, and your voice matters. What do you think about the future of public broadcasting? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about the future of media in America.